Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of NASCAR Heat 4 Career Mode. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we have a lot of racing action here to come towards you. We got Road America in the Xfinity Series, Darlington in Xfinity, Cup Series of course in Darlington for the Southern 500, but we also have the Truck Series at Eldora. So a lot of action, like I said, here to come to us today in this episode of the NASCAR Heat 4 Career Mode. But first up, we had Road America, where we had a subscriber community member from a long-time community member of K17 in the car, Kyle K17, as he started a little bit outside the top 10 here in Road America, but at the road course we know this is actually one of the best qualifying efforts we've had. But like I said, we know when it comes to road racing that we always have a chance in the Xfinity car, even the Truck Series, and as well for myself in the Cup Series. Just road racing, one of my favorite things to do, any type of racing at all now, is K17 was working his way up inside the top 10 already on the opening lap here. He was very aggressive on this first and opening lap, and rightfully so now, as it was paying off, as he would actually make a 3-wide move down this back straightaway here, as you see now happening on Chad Fincham, I think that was, and then on the 0-1, and then down into the next corner he would actually get up the inside of Christopher Bell, make a pass on him as well. So K17 moving his way forwards pretty quickly now, as he would also go around the outside of Chase Briscoe there, and then set his sights on the 22 of Austin Cindric as he went down into the left-hander there, as he actually moves the 22 out of the way, gave him the bumper there, and he would be able to set sail past him, and then actually get up the inside as well of Cole Custer into the final turn here. At this time, he was now up into, I think it was P3 or P4 at this point, but would come through right to the final lap of this race, actually, because he wasn't quite able to make up any more ground here. He was able to pull away a little bit from the cars behind, like Cole Custer, but would come through down into the final corner now, like I said, on the final lap, just behind the 9 of Noah Gragson, as he actually got a pretty good exit on the exit of the last corner there, and now he was running down Gragson, coming to the line, but just didn't quite have the speed to get to him, as he got right to that back bumper, but couldn't quite do no more, as it was P3 for K17 here in the Xfinity Series. So a great result, the best result we've had in a little bit here in Xfinity. Still looking to get our second Xfinity win of the season, and hopefully we can get that very soon. But now we come to Eldora for the Truck Series, where we had a little bit of a throwback. We brought Hailie Deegan back into the truck for us here today in the Truck Series at Eldora. Obviously, she has a dirt background, so we wanted to get her in the truck here for us today in Eldora there, as she did not actually have the greatest qualifying effort. Started at about midfield here in Eldora, and to my surprise, it ended up being a bit of a struggle. I expected to see our truck right up front here contending for the victory here in Eldora, but it just didn't quite work out like that here today, as she was riding that inside lane, and it was actually working very early on in this race, as she was able to move her way forwards quite early, but struggled after the first handful of laps, and she was racing around the 0-2 truck for basically the whole race at this point, as she went down into turn 3 trying to make a pass on him, but just kind of got stuck in this part of the field, and she just could not quite get away from it. We come straight through now to the final lap of this race, and still in the same area, just couldn't quite get away from these trucks of Sheldon Creed and the 0-2, which I believe is Tyler Young, or no, it's Tyler Dipple now, as we went down the backstretch down into turns 3 for the final time. Hailie Deegan would send it up the inside of Dipple, as he came through turns 3 and turn 4, clears him on the exit of the corner, but he crosses her over, but coming to the line, she hangs on to P5 here in Eldora. So still a very solid effort here in Eldora. 2 top 5s to start the weekend here in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. But now we come through to our second Xfinity Series race of the episode at Darlington, a throwback race. And we had a throwback paint scheme, and we changed it up a little bit. We brought a former Chip Ganassi Racing driver into our car. Obviously, we're affiliated, quote-unquote, with Chip Ganassi Racing, being that that is our team in the Cup Series. So we brought back Juan Pablo Montoya to drive our car for this race here in Darlington. He qualified in P6, a great qualifying effort. But starting on that outside lane, obviously being a pretty big disadvantage at every track, and especially Darlington, you got to be so careful through turns 1 and 2 on every restart that you're up top, and obviously got to be ready for that in the Cup race. For myself here in just a few minutes now, as he came through turns 3, Juan Pablo trying to get his way moving forwards, but he really just needed to be down on that bottom lane, and sure enough, on the exit of turns 4, he would get cleared by Cole Custer, and that would allow Juan to get down to the inside, and then he had started to maneuver his way a little bit forwards as he got to the inside of the 11 of Justin Haley through turns 1 and 2. He would pass him. He would also pass the 36 of Joey Gase. I believe that is Joey Gase in the 36. Might be Josh Williams. I can't always remember my Xfinity drivers now, as Juan came down the back straightaway a little bit later, trying to run down the 7 of Justin Allgaier as he came through turns 3 and turns 4. Now at the very late stages of this race, I should mention this was actually the final lap because he wasn't quite able to get any further as he came through, though, to finish just behind the 7 of Allgaier to actually finish in P6 here for the throwback race in Darlington. So great way to start off the first 3 races of this episode, and now we have myself here in the Cup Series now at Darlington for the Southern 500. The qualifying goal here was a 29.299, and we usually qualify actually in a decent position here in Darlington, so I had some hope here coming into this one as we exit turns 2, heading down this back straightaway here on our qualifying attempt. We got through turns 1 and 2 pretty well, and as we go down into turns 3, we get into the entrance pretty well as well. Maybe could have gone in a little bit deeper, but we come through out of turns 4, and I definitely noticed there I gave up some time on the exit of the corner, but we come through either way to beat our goal still, the 29.229, and go P8. So a solid qualifying effort here in the Southern 500 at Darlington. And on the pole, we got Erik Jones.
NASCAR's in Darlington for the running of the Bojangles Southern 500. This unique egg-shaped oval, known as the track Too Tough to Tame, has become home to the Throwback Weekend. Join us as we celebrate 7 decades of NASCAR.
Thank you, Rick Allen. We're ready to go green here for the Bojangles Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway. Just 2 races remain in the regular season. Keep that in mind. Drivers like Jimmy Johnson, William Byron, Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, and Daniel Suarez all fighting it out for a final 2 positions or so in the playoff grid now. So it's going to be right now crunch time for those 5 drivers. Jimmy Johnson, he's been in the playoffs pretty much all season, but is still right on that verge of being eliminated as we are now underway here in the Southern 500. Immediately, you notice our rival Daniel Suarez starting right beside me, already crowding me up towards the wall as we go down into turns 1. He's one of the drivers on the bubble right now, so he can't really risk doing something like that to myself because he knows that we are definitely capable of taking him out. We have proved that here this season. Now as we go down this backstretch, Erik Jones leads the way down into turns 3 on this opening lap here in Darlington. Joey Logano gets ahead of myself. Surprisingly, Joey Logano does not have a win this season, but he is locked in to the playoffs on points. He can no longer get eliminated from the playoff grid even if we get new winners for the rest of the final 2 races of the regular season. But Logano, he was moving his way forwards pretty quickly. He was already well up inside the top 10, and then I actually dropped down to P12 here. Now as we came through down into turns 3 on lap 6, we would actually make a pass on Kevin Harvick. Denny Hamlin was leading the way at this point with 7 wins on the season, as well as we came through on lap 9 now. We make a move up the inside of the Hendrick Motorsports driver of Alex Bowman. He has, 2 wins this season, I believe, so with the same amount of wins that we have actually now, as we would clear him through turns 3 and now move in to the top 10 into a stage points paying position as we were now came through on lap 11, and we had actually gotten up the inside of Clint Boyer into turn 3, and we would pass him as well. Got to be careful racing around a guy like Clint Boyer on the bubble, like I mentioned, so don't want to get too aggressive with a driver like him, and sure enough, we would drive away from him, running P9 now on lap 17 of 24 in this first stage. Lap traffic was starting to become a thing for the leader of Denny Hamlin, as I was starting to lose quite a bit of grip here in the car at this point. Now as we come through on lap 18 and actually get into the wall on the exit of turns 4. No damage done, thankfully, but that was our first big contact with the wall. And then we had some drivers starting to pit in the final few laps of the first stage. Joey Logano we saw come in, and I think Erik Jones as well as Kurt Busch right now, our teammate, leads the way. We had enough tires to make it to the end, so I just stayed out. We come through right to the final lap of stage 1. I believe our teammate of Kurt Busch may have pitted as well. Bowman pitted. He was on fresh tires running P34, but here we are all of a sudden on the final lap in stage 1, and we are all the way up now in P6, but we slammed the wall on the exit of turns 2. I lost the back end and just nailed it, but thankfully we get very lucky and do not really pick up any damage again there. There was a little bit of visual damage, but nothing performance impacting as we come through, though, out of turns 4 here on the final lap in stage 1. And we are going to come through to cross the line P6. So a very, very solid stage effort for us now, as I think we probably should have been like P8 or P9. Keselowski gets the stage victory. Daniel Suarez on the outside looking in just barely now gets a bunch of points here in stage 1, so he could definitely have the power here to spice it up in this race and maybe put himself back in the playoffs here with 1 race left after today for that regular season. Now, as we would come to the pit lane for 2 cans of fuel, 4 tires, lose no positions nor gain any. I was hoping we would gain 1 or maybe even lose 1 so we could be on the bottom now, as stage 2 though is officially underway here in the Southern 500. Like I said, unfortunately starting on this outside lane once again. Now 22 laps in the second stage. Daniel Suarez there in P3. Could he get back in the playoffs? We're going to find out here, as he was in the playoffs most of the season, and then kind of in the last 6-7 races or so he's kind of fallen out, kind of like real life last year. He was in that playoff grid, and then after the Daytona July race in 2019, everything just kind of went south for him at that point. Now, is I think Daniel Suarez personally still deserves to be in a good car, and I think Cole Custer is proving right now that it wasn't really a driver issue with the 41 last year, but we're not going to get into that too much now as we go down into turns 1, running in the 6th position. We actually get in the back there of the 9 of Chase Elliott, and then Clint Boyer is going to get to my inside as we come through out of turns 2. He's going to be able to make the pass now, as we also lose a spot there to Tyler Reddick in the 31 as we drop down to P8 after that little mess there with the 9 of Chase Elliott as we go down into turns 3. So thankfully, we would not get any damage out of any of that, but we actually lost some time to the drivers up ahead. Still running P8 now on lap 6 of the stage, and then the caution actually comes out here, our first non-stage caution, and it looks like it's for the 6th of Ryan Newman potentially now, as we would not have to come to the pit lane, so we would stay out and get ready to go back racing here. Once again, though, on the outside lane here in P8, so very unfortunate that we keep getting stuck up here. So far, we've had a start and 2 restarts, and each one we've been on the outside lane now as we go down into turns 1. So hopefully we can just get a little bit lucky here and get one of those restarts on that bottom lane now, as we're right behind the 31 of Tyler Reddick as we exit turns 2, heading down this back straightaway. And then we got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. who had gotten to my inside now as we go down into turn 3. But thankfully I get lucky. I can fade down in behind him. Jimmy Johnson just behind me. He's on the outside looking in, keep in mind. So he is in need of a very good performance. He needs every point he can get. And right now he is holding on to 1 point in this second stage, which really just isn't going to be enough for the 7-time champion to make it into the playoffs in the final season of our NASCAR Heat 4 career mode. We then, though, would run down the 14 of Clint Boyer, the 31 of Tyler Reddick here on lap 15 of the second stage, looking to the inside now of Boyer as we came through out of turns 4, but just didn't quite have the exiting power I needed there to be able to pass him. So we come through on lap 20 of the second stage. We would get to the inside of Boyer, finally a chance to attack as we go down into turn 3, and I would send it in pretty deep, and we would clear the 14 of Clint Boyer now as we come through out of turns 4, approaching just 2 to go on the stage now as we would try to drive away, but we come through approaching the white flag in the stage now at a turn 4. We get very sideways there approaching the white in the second stage, and we hang on to the car, but we lose the position to the 14 of Clint Boyer as we come through turns 1 and 2. He knows he needs every point he can get, but I still want any point I can get at this point now as we exit turn 2, going down this back stretch for the final time down towards turn 3. Boyer being defensive there, running that bottom as we're going to send it up the outside into turns 3, but it's not going to quite work out as we lose the run through the center of the corner. And as we exit turn 4, we're on his bumper, but just can't quite make anything happen now as we go down this front straightaway, trying to get to his outside as we cross the line to finish P8 in the second stage. So still nothing to be disappointed about as Denny Hamlin wins stage 2 now, as that would be it. Now is Jimmy Johnson down at P15, not what he needs now, as we would pay for 2 cans of fuel, 4 tires. Daniel Suarez once again gets a bunch of points, as I would also make a slight wedge adjustment here now, just to make sure the car was a little bit tighter because it felt a little bit loose on the long run, and then I made some tire pressure adjustments too. This time in the pit lane, though, we would gain 1 position, and now we will restart on the bottom lane for the start of the 3rd and final stage here in the Southern 500, our final Southern 500 here of the NASCAR Heat 4 career mode. Now, as we are P7 going down into turns 1, Denny Hamlin, though, has been fast all day long, or all night long here, so we know he is going to be a major threat here in this final stage. As we're sideways, though, on the exit of turn 2, I kind of hit that little bump there, and we nearly cleaned out the 31 of Tyler Reddick, but thankfully we did not. Now as we go down into turn 3, Kurt Busch, my teammate, just behind myself as we go down into the corner. He's very fast, but he pitted at the end of stage 1, and that's the reason he's behind us right now. But here he is working his way back forward as I try to pick up that drive from the 31 of Tyler Reddick for Richard Childress Racing here as we go down into into the corner, closing right back up on the 31 of Reddick through the center of the corner, but just couldn't quite make it work there as we go on the exit. Now actually building up a run, and we might look to the inside of him here as we go down the back stretch, trying to make a move down into turns 3 for that 5th position, or 6th position, sorry, now, as it was Brad Keselowski who had gotten himself up front at this point now as we come through, heading down through turns 3 and now to turn 4. We had actually dropped down to P7 now on lap 56. Our teammate Kurt Busch had gotten past us, and then the 22 of Joey Logano was coming through down into turns 1, and then the 31 of Tyler Reddick full sends and puts myself in the wall here as we come through turns 1 and turns 2. What in the world was the 31 of Tyler Reddick thinking? Now we have some damage on the right side of the car as we go down this back stretch, and immediately I could feel a little bit of a difference. It wasn't too significant, but I was definitely not happy with the 31 of Tyler Reddick at this point. We've had a clean race for the most part, and then he just drove in there and put me in the wall. So at this point, I was definitely trying to find the 31 of Tyler Reddick. We had rallied back up to P11 now on lap 60 as we came into turns 2. Now as we go down into turn 3, Hamlin, the dominant car here today, goes spinning into the corner, and that's actually going to bring out a caution with 33 laps to go. No one was pitting, so I decided we are going to stay out, and we would gain 1 spot to go up to P10 back on the outside. But there you see the 31 of Tyler Reddick. I was hoping that I could actually find a way to close in on the back of him here as we get back going with 29 laps to go, knowing our chances at this point of winning just aren't there. We just didn't quite have that speed we needed, and there was a big stack up from row 2, which would leave just Keselowski and Kyle Busch out front to fight for that front position as we exit turns 2, making sure we don't hit the wall. But there was a little bit of contact there with the 37 of Chris Buescher now as we run P11, and as we came through on lap 65 through turns 1 and 2, we got back up the inside of the 12 of Ryan Blaney, and once again we're back up inside the top 10, trying to get to the inside of Clint Boyer as well for Stuart Haas Racing. But once again, a bubble driver, so we got to be careful around the 14 of Clint Boyer. But we would make a very clean and swift pass there on Clint, and as we now fight to the inside of Jones, nearly he actually gets a run off the corner, so I couldn't quite get him. But we come through on lap 67, and we do fight to the inside of Edward Jones and clear him into turns 3. But I send it in so deep trying to clear him that he's able to just cross me over like it was nothing, and he actually retakes the position, so we drop back down to P9. But now we come through on lap 69. Nice at this point. We get into the wall there through turns 1 and 2. We're slipping and sliding on the exit of the corner, and then all that ground we just gained is wiped. The 12 goes by, the 14 goes by. Our teammate Kurt Busch was actually leading at this point over second place of Brad Keselowski. But we come through on lap 71 now to the outside of Boyer, and then once again I get into the outside wall. So everything at this point was going downhill. We were closing in on green flag pit stops as well as we came through a few laps later. Now the caution would actually come out with 19 laps to go, and we all had to come to the pit lane. I decided to repair the car, put in a can of fuel or whatever it was, and then I decided to do right side tires, and that bit us in the back at Bristol when I took right side tires. But I thought the AI would take right side tires this time here in Darlington, so I decided we were actually going to go with that, and well, no, they didn't. They took 4 tires. So once again, just like Bristol, at least we didn't throw the win away this time. This time we were running like P10, P11, and maybe we'll still be able to hang on to a top 10 as we have just 15 laps to go. At this point, I know we're not going to be able to hold off these fast drivers like Kurt Busch or Brad Keselowski, so I wasn't really planning to just stay in the way now as we come through out of turn 2, heading down this back stretch. But I wanted to at least help my teammate of Kurt Busch if I could, so I was going to actually try and block Keselowski as I went down into turns 3, and sure enough, you see me running his lane, and then I actually blocked the one of Kurt Busch just a little bit by accident on the exit of turns 4, but there he goes. He gets such a massive run and drives right by me here on the front straightaway. So as we go down into turns 1, now the 9 of Chase Elliott gets ahead of me, as well as we actually make contact with the Hendrick Motorsports driver, and he would still go through to take second place away on the exit of turns 2 because I just had nothing down the back straightaway, and we would just drop like a rock after this point now as I tried to fight out the inside of Kyle Busch, and then I just realized that the car was gone. So we dropped down all the way to P18 as we came through to just 11 laps to go now as we come through out of turns 2. But then Tyler Reddick joins the party, and I was still unhappy with him, so I decided, you know what, this race has gone completely downhill, running P19, so down into turn 3, we're going to take out the 31 of Tyler Reddick to get revenge on him from earlier, because I felt like just after we got put in the wall by him, that's when everything went downhill for us, so I was definitely still frustrated. So I take him out, we come into the pit lane, put 2 cans of fuel in the car, 4 tires, and we were still on the lead lap, actually inside the top 30 to my surprise. So we would get back underway from P25. Kurt Busch still leading, so we didn't at least impede our teammate in the process, but just kind of the same thing every time we come to Darlington. We always get frustrated, and I always do something stupid. And like I said, I think that's the story of every Darlington race I've done in like the NASCAR Heat series now has come through out of turn 2, except for maybe the one time I won the NASCAR Heat 3 career mode. So definitely unfortunate how this race has gone now, as we would go up the inside of Hamrick down into turns 3, and I was just being as aggressive as I could through turns 3 and turns 4 there, passing 47, making a 3 wide with him. We were past Joey Logano, and all of a sudden we were up into P16 and inside the top 15 here on lap 88 with just 5 laps to go as we came through down into turns 1, slipping and sliding a little bit there. P14 just behind Chris Buescher and Eric Almirola. Kurt Busch, our teammate, still leading at this point as we try to dive to the inside, but we clip the apron on the exit of turn 2 and into the inside. While we go spinning hard, front ends destroyed, 19 seconds of damage, and our race would be over. There was I just decided that with my DNF rule, I would not be able to get back out on track in time to finish the race, so that was it for us as we finished P27. Denny Hamlin last. Jimmy Johnson on the bubble down in P39. He DNF'd. That's going to be big, and we're about to see that in the points as Kurt Busch, though, picks up the victory now, as just everything went wrong in the final stage. So disappointed with that now, as there's just really not much left to say about that one. And as always, if you guys did enjoy this one, though, you know what to do. But in the next one, we're going to decide the playoff grid. But first, we're going to see the implications Jimmy Johnson's DNF just had, because this is going to be pretty big now, as we're going to see, because Jimmy Johnson's probably, he was already outside of the playoffs. He's probably going to be at maybe 30 points or so out after this one, my guess. I'm not 100% sure, but we're about to see now. As you see, the Truck Series points, of course, we have nothing to worry about in the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series. We'll be in the playoffs for both of those, as well for the Cup Series for us. But the big story, like I said, is on Jimmy Johnson and just the rest of the playoff bubble. Jimmy Johnson, surprisingly, is only 17 points out, which means that I was wrong. He was actually inside the playoffs coming into this race. So yeah, that's big right there for Jimmy Johnson. He might miss the playoffs now in the final season of the Heat 4 career mode. Suarez out by 15. Byron is now the last car, and it was Johnson last episode, so yeah, I was wrong. But either way, big shakeups, and I thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this one. And the next one, we decide the playoff grid. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have yourselves a great day.